Well, it's been a long time since I've put on anything Monster Hunter related, but here goes. Since a bunch of you guys have asked for it, here are my thoughts on the Monster Hunter World Beta. I held off commenting on it until I'd actually played it, which I'm glad about since some of the changes I really didn't like in theory have worked out pretty well in practice. I also didn't have much time with the beta, so take all of this commentary with a pinch of salt. And lastly, understand that people play games for different reasons, so understand that my comments are from a speedrunning or a min-maxing perspective. If you play games more casually, or you like to hang out with your friends, then you'll have different priorities and drivers from me, and that's fine. It just means that these reflections that I have might not mirror your experience. But I have been playing this series for 12 years, so I do have some insights. But here's my hot take on the different elements in no particular order. First up, damage numbers. I really didn't like this idea when I first heard it, but I've come to think it's a good thing. The damage formula is very complicated and working through it's really tough. This takes a mechanic that was hidden to the player and instead gives clear, exact and real-time feedback. Players didn't engage with lots of numbers in a spreadsheet and the damage formula FAQs, but a single one in-game will work, which hopefully encourages players to make better choices about the gear they use and where they hit, and especially how elemental damage works. People had a vague understanding that cutting or impact did more in certain places, but had a poor understanding that's also how element works. Rathalos, for example, is not really weak to dragon, it's weak to dragon on its head. Since you can toggle this feature off and it's giving everyone better information and it's pretty unobtrusive, I actually like this. There's so many hidden systems in the games that it's caused a lot of misinformation to circulate in the community, which is partly caused by the game giving you unintuitive cues that have been misleading. So hopefully this change corrects some of that. In terms of scout flies, I don't really like the way they've been handled, but it's not a big deal. You play a short mini-game which takes a minute or so of following a green trail to a spot on the ground, push a button, and then follow that trail to the monster. It's mechanically reasonably similar to Witcher Sense or Wraith mode from Shadow of Mordor. After the mini-game, you follow the green trail to the monster, which will eventually run, and then you switch your brain off and chase the green light again. Anytime you have a guide like this in a game, it means that players only pay attention to that and ignore the rest of the information on display. Paintballs are also, of course, a form of mini-game, but since it didn't tell you the exact path to the creature, you had to plot a route in your head, which required a bit more engagement, but again, it's not a big deal, and it doesn't affect the core of the game. The maps are also a lot more complicated than they were previously, so I understand why they're taking this route. In terms of the open world, there's changes that impact the core of the game negatively, and I feel like this is one of them. The fact that it's open world itself is great, and I like that, but the base PS4, and I'm assuming the base Xbox, can't hack it, which drags the frame rate to below 30 at times, and that is not good. The core of this game is the combat between you and the monster, and everything else is secondary. You spend most of your time attacking and dodging and making split-second choices about whether to use items or whether to attack or the angle of attack, and that gameplay is affected by a poor frame rate. The time that you spend running around looking for the monster or chasing it is, or should be, a minority, and what that's improved by the open world. And yeah, it looks really good, but you don't look at the world or engage with it while you're actually fighting, but you do engage with the inconsistent frame rate. It is nice though not to have to deal with tripping a monster right on the edge of a zone and not being able to hit it, or watching it taunt you from out of bounds. If this change could be implemented while maintaining a smooth experience, then great, but on the base PS4 I think you'd struggle to call this a good implementation of a good idea. Like I said, the open world itself is a cool change, and it makes a lot of sense, but the implementation of that cool change isn't working, which means this might be great on the high-end PC or an Xbox One X or a PS4 Pro. Moving while drinking potions and being able to roll cancel. I hated this idea fervently when it was announced, but the way it's balanced with the longer animation and what feels like a lower rate of healing is fine. You're still best off picking smart openings to heal instead of trying to chug a potion and having to roll out of it. And roll cancelling itself still requires players to manage good direction and timing. This gives the player a balanced set of choices, which in my mind will always be better than one. I'm also on board with the auto-targeting knives. They aren't a big deal in game, and always having to throw them on a flat plane previously was pretty stupid. Being able to activate some of the environmental hazards with them is fun too, like the paratoads or the flash floods. The monster ecosystems are cool too, with creatures wandering around. I hope there's an option to disable the introduction cinematics though, since dragging control away from the player at a bad time is not a good thing. I've missed big charge attacks on Diablos when a Baroth wandered over to say hi, and all of a sudden my camera is pulled away. If the full game has single skill charms, I like that idea, especially if the good ones aren't a pain to grind for or they're craftable. Charms aren't a bad idea in terms of making sets more customizable, but the best ones were crazy good, but they were also based on luck to obtain, which was pretty dumb. Standardizing them a bit is fine, and making it a choice between defense or attack or evasion or resist is interesting. Changing sets during fights at base camp won't have much impact on how I play, but I guess as it offers players more options at a penalty of the time spent to travel to camp, that's fine. Infinite use whetstones are also all good. I don't think I've ever run out of them in the thousands of Blade Master hunts I've done, so having an arbitrary number of 20 being taken away is not a change I mind. Changes like this, or infinite stamina while running before you see a monster, are the kind of streamlining quality of life changes I don't mind. My overall thoughts on the game are cautiously optimistic. There's a lot to like, but until I see the damage balance in the full game and how the servers etc. work, I'm going to keep my expectations in check. So am I going to post lots again? Probably not, but it remains to be seen. I will of course be doing exhibition runs of epic 360 no-scope whiv and fire montages set to dubstep though. The kind of content that I like making is speedruns and in-depth analysis. Since I've been playing this game for 12 years, I've got a lot of reflections, and even more opinions, and I love the sound of my own voice. But the nature of YouTube makes it a poor place to have these long-form, detailed discussions. When I posted the Why Monster Hunter Sucks Now video, the major criticisms were that I just love nostalgia and broken hitboxes. I explicitly said in the video that broken hitboxes are a bad thing, and if I was just nostalgic, then I would be frothing over the first and the oldest instead of the man crush that I have on Monster Hunter Further Unite. So it strikes me that there's just not the audience there for that kind of video. I didn't play much of Generations or any Double Cross either. I played a lot of 4U and got really burnt out farming for Bishappa weapons. I got some max relics, but the Apex mechanic and using Y-stones was a drag, and I didn't enjoy the little bit of Gen I did play, so I didn't get into it. I've been told that there's a couple of people running around using my name and Generations online, so take it with a grain of salt if you see someone with my name. Alright, that's my fresh take on World. Hopefully there will be some options for players to help improve the framerate dips, and if that happens then I'm really excited to see where the game goes in conjunction with the other positive changes I've ranted about. This is mazereon, out.